Jiren is a bad character. That's what I said back in November of 2017. I went on the record and voiced my indifference and frustration regarding Jiren's character. However, at the time, many considered it too early to draw an accurate conclusion, and that's fair enough. I still hated him, but that was a fair enough conclusion to draw. Fast forward 24 episodes later, and not only has the opinion on Jiren within the community shifted, but the generally negative feelings surrounding him have reached fever pitch. And despite a large portion of the fanbase hating Jiren as a character, I find myself unsatisfied, yet again disagreeing with the majority. But how could that be the case? If I attacked Jiren so earnestly before and he's still the same, what's changed? Today, I am going to break down Jiren's character, touching on his design, personality, and his backstory, hoping to reach a conclusion once and for all on whether or not Jiren the Grey is in fact a bad character. And I think the answer may surprise you. Jiren was introduced to the hive mind that is the Dragon Ball fandom on episode 85 of Dragon Ball Super. Now, we did sorta kinda see him in promo material before the arc, but I'll touch on that later. After episode 85, Jiren didn't participate narratively in any meaningful way until episode 96, in which Goku singles him out as the guy to fight in the contest. I think this is the moment where, in the minds of many fans, the seeds of "I hate Jiren" were planted. The tournament just begins and we are told right off the bat that this guy is the best. So on the most basic level, this seems exceedingly cheap. However, it being the beginning of the tournament, most of us, including myself, were willing to wait to see how things would pan out. But already, fans were taking issue with a certain aspect of him. Trying to break down the nebulous notion of what makes for bad character design is very difficult, with it largely boiling down to our own basic preferences and interests. That said, it is an intriguing topic of discussion, as characters with a lot of thought put into them can convey a host of information to the viewer at a glance. For instance, if you look at these individual parts, you already know what they are. That's an engine, those are wheels, etc, etc. Combine these parts with a host of others and it becomes what everyone recognizes as a car. But if you take the wheels off of this car, people, maybe even you, would still refer to this as a car. What if you remove the engine, the brakes? When does this car stop being a car? Because an engine isn't a car, it's an engine. So there must be a point this car stops being a car. This is what I mean by bad character design being a nebulous subject. When does a bad design become a good design, or vice versa? A YouTuber by the name of Super Eyepatch Wolf put this better than I ever could. The kind of design that we are going to relate to is as varied as what type of person we are going to be attracted to. Design is what the character looks like, and how we take that information in will inevitably differ from person to person. So this is my take on Jiren's design. He's boring. Okay, let me explain. His design is very simplistic and by the books, sporting a top-heavy muscular frame, which isn't bad in my opinion, just nothing to write home about. One aspect that did bother me was the attire that he wore. Ignoring the argument that the Pride Trooper uniform is better suited to a comedic role, which it has been used in, the same uniform is worn by 9 other characters, who between them haven't eliminated a single person, further diluting its appeal and removing any sense of occasion and respect that it has. For comparison's sake, let's take a look at my favorite character design from the entire series, Frieza. His cold and sterile design helps to convey his personality perfectly. If someone was to walk in and look at Frieza on TV, with no information, they would have a decent handle on his character and what he's about. So in saying that, does Jiren's design have the same effect? At first glance, kinda. Jiren is quiet and stern, and I'm not sure if that is immediately understood just by looking at him. It could be the case that it does in fact do that for you, however for me it's serviceable at best. One thing I will say is that I am thankful that Jiren has a strong build for a character. Dragon Ball Super has enough skinny strong characters, so it was refreshing to see someone of Jiren's stature finally show up. But in saying that, his design is nothing special. It's serviceable. The next part though, might be harder to pull off. Frieza not only works because of his design, but also because of his personality. Filled to the brim with self-importance, 5 seconds with Frieza and you'll be dying to see him on your screen again. In the same vein, Cell is smarmy and smug, and Boo is volatile and savage. What I am hoping to get across here is that a character's personality is arguably its most important aspect. I mean, Vegeta is a short, angry-looking troll doll with a receding hairline. But god damn it, he's one of the best personalities in the entire series. I can't imagine anyone else filling that role. And that's one of the issues I have with Jiren from a character's point of view. He has virtually nothing to set himself apart from the crowd. Hit was stern and quiet also, yes, but he was introduced in a much shorter arc and had a very interesting moveset, the latter of which being the main reason tons of people liked him. Again, this is Dragon Ball, not Hemingway. We don't need nuanced thematic deconstructions of Jiren's hubris to enjoy him, but something to make him stand out from the crowd wouldn't go amiss either. Everything from what he wears to what he says or doesn't say, to how he fights. Nothing about him is unique or sensational, in my opinion anyway. Hit worked because he is the only one that could do what he did. Characters like Goku, Vegeta, Piccolo, or even Yajirobe can never be replaced. This is because they have personalities which we have come to know and identify with over the course of the show. Even a character like Zamasu was easy to identify and understand. Jiren is so overly simplistic that literally anyone else could switch into that role and nothing would change, as long as they told us that they were the strongest, or whatever. In my opinion, he's a shell of a character. There's really nothing there. And before episode 127, you could barely even say that he was a character. But once episode 127 came, he did finally get some exposition. This was the spark that got people turning their heads and declaring Jiren as a bad character. To break it down simply, for the vast majority of the tournament, Jiren was given little to no dialogue, no development, and absolutely no backstory past the fact that he was part of the Pride Troopers and was super duper strong. But when his backstory did eventually surface, with 4 episodes remaining, people were unsatisfied with how cliché his past was. And this is where I think people are misdirecting their dissatisfaction. Just because something is cliché doesn't make it inherently bad. Things become cliché for a reason, specifically when they're used over and over again. And things are used over and over again when they work. The prototypical hero's journey is in almost every facet of fiction. It's a staple, it's by no means bad. I mean, this is Dragon Ball, we're hardly expecting Shakespeare levels of narrative innovation. In short, there is nothing wrong with having a character that lost everything as a child to an evil force, dedicating the rest of his life to ensuring he never feels that sense of helplessness again, while developing a complex along the way. In fact, I kinda like it. So while I don't believe there is anything wrong with Jiren's backstory personally, I think how it was presented was by and large the culprit for the outrage. In other words, they took way too long to tell this otherwise simple story. But I have a theory that might explain some of this away, or at least shed some light. Jiren's character, I think, was designed early on, but for the longest time, decisions were not finalized for what the character stood for, what its goals were, and where he came from. My reasoning for thinking this? His presence in the promo material for the Universe Survival Arc. In January of 2017, the first animated promo material aired for the Universe Survival Arc, in which Jiren was seen at Belmode's side, a position Toppo would be soon swapped in for when the show eventually aired. This tells me one of two things. Either Jiren was there by accident, or his role and backstory was changed retroactively, leading to the writers of the show intentionally underdeveloping him, resulting in our first proper meeting being at the Tournament of Power. And comparing that to the manga's interpretation is even more telling. That introduction to Jiren gives us more insight into his values and character than 30 episodes of the Tournament of Power ever did. And that's the problem. Jiren's backstory isn't sensational by any means, but it's not bad either. The only real issue I had with Jiren was how long it took them to establish this information. With a backstory revealed 4 episodes out from the show's ending, how am I as a viewer expected to form a connection with the character in any meaningful way? It's a little frustrating because it clearly could have been something that was established earlier on to greater effect. But with that said, the question remains, is Jiren a bad character? From the moment I was introduced to Jiren, I really didn't like him. And as the tournament progressed, it became more and more obvious to me that Jiren was a hollow character, void of anything that would interest me at all. I worried he might even ruin the climax of the entire arc. But I was wrong. Now, in saying that, don't paint me as a Jiren lover just yet. Jiren is not a fantastic character. He's not even a good character. He's fine. Nothing special and nothing offensively bad. And part of me believes that this is at least on some level intentional. Let me explain in one sentence what I mean. The Tournament of Power isn't so much a unique arc as it is a love letter to Dragon Ball. Now, that might seem like a load of flowery lip service, but think about it. How many iconic moments have been mimicked or created thanks to this tournament? Whether it be Goku's new transformation, a battle with a fused character, the return of Broly, kinda, Frieza's return from oblivion, Master Roshi's speech to Goku and Krillin, 18 and 17 working together, giant monsters, Vegeta being tenacious, which leads him to releasing a blast reminiscent of his sacrifice in the Buu Saga. I could easily go on, and I will. Super Saiyan God, Gohan and Goku's Kamehameha together, Piccolo's interaction with Kame and Nail, Krillin and 18 working together, Gohan blocking a blast just like Piccolo did for him when he was a child. This arc, it was designed from the start to be the last of Super. It's swan song. But when this tournament began, none of us knew that. I, like many, thought things were going to continue right after, much like it did when the Future Trunks arc ended. And so, I hated Jiren because I thought he was going to be the focus. The reason this arc existed, to establish him as a character. But he's not the focus. He never was. All this time I was complaining that he wasn't getting the development he needed, when clearly the focus has been on reliving Dragon Ball's greatest hits, rather than specific new characters. Jiren is nothing special. He is there to facilitate these incredible moments. Nothing more than a plot device. And he does that job perfectly fine. The real star of the universe survival arc is Dragon Ball's history, and it takes center stage. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to leave a like, and if you'd like to see more content like this, why not try subscribing? It's good karma. Or if you guys would like to see who I think is going to win the tournament, why not try clicking this video down here? And if facts are more your thing, why not check out the scoreboard I made for the Tournament of Power last week? Who do you think has the most eliminations? But that'll do it for this week. Thank you so much for watching.